All right, well, welcome everyone to this open space on regenerative action. My name is Don Hall. I'm the Executive Director of Transition US and also be your host for this session today. So we've been on a long journey here from what is to what if to what's next. In the what is phase, we learned a lot about different models, current reality. Moving into the what if phase, we were inspired by many brilliant speakers and recharged ourselves with inner transition activities. And now we find ourselves in the what's next, perhaps the most important phase, that of moving into action. And that is what open space technology is designed to do. So open space was created more than 30 years ago by Harrison Owen, author and organizational development consultant, to provide a way to host meetings that help people to self-organize around topics of common interest and move into action together. And it's since been taught and used in thousands of different contexts all over the world, and even caught the attention of transition movement founder Rob Hopkins in the early days, and he made it one of his original 12 steps of transition. Step 6 was to use open space because it is such a powerful tool for galvanizing collective action. Now, of course, what we're going to be doing here today is a little different. First of all, it's online, and we asked folks to submit topics in advance for sessions today, where we usually make it up on the spot, but we did that here to save time. So our schedule for today, starting off with arrival, a little introduction, and a chance for you to ask questions about how we're doing this, about how to use this particular format. Then we'll have our first round of breakouts. We'll have 2 rounds of breakouts, each lasting an hour. And we have 4 people who have stepped up to host sessions in each round. And then we'll have a short break right in the middle, and an intro to the second round breakouts. We'll have that second block of breakouts starting around 2:40 Pacific. And then we'll have some time back at the end for groups to report back on their conversations, and for a little closing information, talking about how we can go forward, keep these conversations going. So even though this is a little bit different kind of open space, we're still going to abide by the 4 principles and the 1 law of open space. And these are very strict principles and laws. So the first principle is whoever comes is the right people. So that applies to everybody who showed up here today, and the folks that show up at your session. We don't judge, that I didn't have enough people attend my session. My session was really popular. We believe that whoever shows up is the right people, and that whatever happens is the only thing that could have happened. So we're encouraged in open space to let the conversation flow and to let it go where it wants to go, where it wants to take us, to be open, to be curious, and to be spontaneous. Whenever it starts is the right time. So we won't be too rigid here in our timings. And whenever it's over, it's over. So, we may have a great conversation going in one of our breakout rooms at the end of that hour. It's over, but that doesn't mean it's over for good. It means that it's over for now, and we can continue those conversations afterwards. There's also one law of open space, which is the law of 2 feet, which basically means that chances are we all have 2 feet, and we are encouraged to use them in open space. We can do one of 2 things. We can become a butterfly. We can come back to this main room here. We can hang out by ourselves. We can take a little break. We can go for a walk. We might journal, do some meditation, if that's what we're feeling at the time. Or we can be a bumblebee, moving from session to session and cross-pollinating different conversations and ideas. So if we ever feel like we're not contributing or learning where we are, we're encouraged to use our 2 feet, our virtual feet in this case, to move to a place where we feel like we are learning, we are contributing somehow. So that encapsulates the basic philosophy of open space. When we go into these breakout rooms, there are people that are signed up to host those discussions, but you don't need to be an expert on that topic. You don't need to know everything about it or have some kind of big plan. You're just really convening that discussion and helping to facilitate it. And also in those groups, we're going to ask for somebody to take notes. So you might want to ask for a volunteer, one of the first few people that come to your session. So want to pause here for a moment and just see if there's any questions about open space technology, how it works. Just curious, maybe we can do a poll of how many people have done open space before. Put up your actual hand or your virtual hand. All right, so we got quite a few people that are experienced in this, and maybe y'all can help anybody else out that this is their first time, might be unfamiliar with it. Just waiting another moment to see if there's any other questions. So Shaktari asks, are the sessions able to be recorded? So we are recording what's happening here in the main room. We'll record the report backs at the end, but there also, I think we will be able to help you to record your breakout room if you'd like to do that. And Galen Myers is our amazing tech host today. And if you need any help getting the recording set up in your breakout room, there'll be a button that says ask for help. Just click on that and we'll get to you as quickly as we can. All right, so any other questions before we introduce the first round of breakouts?
Don, there's 3 hands raised.
Yeah, and I was wondering if those were raised because those were people indicating that they had done open space before, or if there was a question. I see Brett and AJ.
Now it's just me, and I do have a question. I'm just wondering, kind of what are the responsibilities of the host? Can any rigid rules there?
No, not really. Just to hold the space for that conversation to happen. Yeah, I find open space technology to be very zen, very simple, and very elegant in that way. And that it's just a very simple social technology that enables people to come together around these topics of common interest. And it's really up to the group as a whole to decide whether, you know, it goes beyond this hour-long conversation. I mean, one thing that we just ask you to do is to take notes, if you can, to find somebody in your group who's willing to take notes. And I will put the notes document into the chat right now, so you can all have access to that. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Does that answer your question? Cool. Thanks, Brett. All right. Any other questions? All right. And we will just get on with it. One of the other principles of open space, or one of the design aspects, is that the host should do as little as possible. So that's what I'm aiming to do here. All right, so let's see. There's screen share for you. All right. So these are our first round breakouts. Let's see if I can get this in full screen. All right, well, y'all can see it anyway. So we have 4 breakout rooms for this first hour-long session. We have Regeneration Nation with Marissa Momartz. Database of Lessons Learned with Shakhtari Baloo. Cultivating Ecocentric Visionaries with Brett Bailey. And Catalyzing Conflict Transformation with Scott Brown. And so I'm going to call on each of you in turn now. And you have about a minute to just share why you propose this topic, what you hope to talk about, and recruit some people to join your breakout session. So let's start with Marissa.
Hello, everybody. I thought yesterday we should have a follow-up to that presentation on Regeneration Nation, our 3-year campaign with the Regeneration Core Youth Leadership Focus, both to share some ideas that maybe didn't come through in the presentation, some of our highest visions around regional organizing, public lands, things like that, as well as to answer questions you have and to get your ideas and talk about what it might look like where you live. That's it for me.
Awesome. So join room 1 if you want to continue talking about the Regeneration Nation campaign and ways to get involved with that. Shakhtari, can you share a little bit about your session?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So we have been doing several meetings already within the entire summit on creating some kind of a database that is co-created so that we can share lessons learned, what worked, what didn't work, in what context, in what bioregion, et cetera, so that various transition initiatives do not have to reinvent the wheel each time, but also so that all of the organizations that want to work with us to co-create this database we can all learn together from each other's work so that we can jumpstart this even more and be more effective and efficient. So The database of lessons learned in room 2 is an opportunity to look over the discussion that's already happened and then jump it even further and see where we can go with this. So please come.
Awesome. Thank you, Shaktari. Brett.
Yeah, so having been not extremely connected to the movement for at least a few years, I recently decided that I wanted to be, and it was extraordinarily challenging. It's just a miracle that I got to absorb all the wisdom here. So we're going to be looking at how both technology and some perhaps new ways of system thinking can expand our vision of what's possible for connecting with each other in transition, in other related movements, and to folks that aren't connected to the movement at all. Thanks.
So that conversation will be happening in breakout room 3. And last but not least, we have Scott Brown with Catalyzing Conflict Transformation.
Yeah, thanks, Don. I posted this as a topic because somebody had to. And a lot of us see what we often call inner resilience as absolutely essential to the mission of transition, and yet it has yet to be fully integrated into a lot of contexts. And there's just so much to talk about in this territory. I think that lack of integration is a little highlighted by a post in the chat earlier, that there's this idea that there's 2 different conferences. This was a post by John. There's peak oil, there's climate change, there's social inequity and social justice. And there's also really clearly a third thread, and that is the inner resilience, the interpersonal skills and tools that are necessary for this work. And so, yes, we need to integrate these things, and that includes the conflict transformation and the interpersonal piece. So that is what we'll be talking about.
Awesome. So I see a comment in the chat saying that I can't believe I have to choose. Well, remember what I said earlier about being able to move from breakout to breakout as a bumblebee cross-pollinating conversations. You can choose to stick in the same room the whole time or move between them. And we'll be opening up those breakouts in just a moment. They'll be labeled with the name of that session. And Galen, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about how people can move from one breakout room to another.
Yeah, absolutely. So in just a second, actually right now, opening up all rooms. And so now you should see at the bottom of your screen a button that says breakout rooms. And if you click or tap on that, then you should see a window with a list of these 4 breakout rooms. And in order to join one, all you have to do is drag your cursor over the title of the room and all the way over the right-hand side of the window. And then the button that says join will appear for you under your cursor. And if you have any trouble, just speak out loud or type into the chat, and I can also send you an invitation to join a particular room if that's helpful. And that button, sorry, Don, that button will be available to you while you're in the breakout rooms, and you can click that button and then switch rooms anytime you like. And if you'd like to come back to the main room, you'll have a leave button at the bottom right of your screen, and that will give you the option to either leave the entire meeting or come back to the breakout room, come back to the main room.
And in response to a question that was in the chat, yes, the second round will be completely different sessions. So you'll have another 4 rooms to choose from. We're going to hear back from all the breakout sessions, maybe starting with the first round breakouts. And we'll have about 1 to 2 minutes per group. Just any insights that came up, any surprises, any next steps, so that we can share that with everybody, regardless of what session we attended. So, Marissa, you still here?
Yes, I am here. We had a big group and a wide-ranging conversation about Regeneration Nation, everything from kind of an overview of what was shared last night for folks who weren't there to diving into like, how can this support frontline communities and how will we pay for it? And what's the role of communications and what's the role of different types of community organizing strategies like canvassing, all kinds of things. So I need to definitely digest it. We will have a series of ongoing like conversations about Regeneration Nation next year. So stay tuned for that, and we'll kind of dive into many of the different areas that we touched on today. Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else from that session want to share anything? All right, well, you'll certainly be hearing a lot more from us about Regeneration Nation in the coming weeks and months. All right, so next we have Shaktari and the database of lessons learned. Give us an update.
Well, we had a fabulous session. Even though we had a little technical difficulties at the beginning, it was, I showed the PowerPoint of what we had discussed in our 2 prior sessions before this open space, that raised a lot of questions. People really jumped in with a lot of ideas and a lot of expertise, which thrilled me no end. And we ended up with, a lot of people involved. I'm going to, as requested, send a copy of the PowerPoint to everybody with all the links that were contained within, to everybody that attended. So make sure you got your email on the list of core attendees if that's what you would like, because I've almost got it all ready to send. And we were followed by Helen's creation. I guess she was number 2 also in the next round. And the topics were almost identical. So it was just a beautiful merge of the conversation into the next phase. And so I'll let her fill out the rest.
Great.
So did you want me to jump in now?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just quite magical how the alignment from the first room into the second room. So the universe continues to work her beautiful magic. So the concept for both of us is about actually bringing together all the amazing initiatives that are happening around the world so we can cross-pollinate, co-create, collaborate, and have conversations and see what emerges from those. What was clear was that we're very deliberate in the process. We're taking a very regenerative process through this. So we don't have all the answers, but we have lots of questions. So we're staying very curious. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. There's nothing else. Terry? Yeah.
I just wanted to add that the links to both of the work we did are on the notes. So if you're curious about what Helen's creating, go there and look at her notes also.
Great. Yeah, and I'll talk in a few minutes about utilizing the Regenerative Communities portal for this ongoing communication as well. Right, let's go over to Brett next. Cultivating ecocentric visionaries. Seems like a rich conversation.
We talked about a range of topics following some technical difficulties, but the part that I will focus on, which also ties in with some of what our discussion with Helen looked like, we did get to talk about some emerging technologies and the research and work that transition has been doing at the highest levels, thinking about programs like high-low that are emerging, platforms like Mighty Networks that we're using, and free open source technologies and how they may be paving the way in the future, and a touch on Facebook and how it is the ultimate outreach tool. We all need to be using it for outreach, but it might not be the ultimate endpoint for storing our data and sharing it, much in the way that Shakhtari is exploring. And then Helen's work kind of takes some of those themes to a larger scale, as we also explored a little bit in my session, thinking about how we can connect individuals and other non-transition organizations into the network where we're all sharing resources, offering resources, and sharing visions about the future.
Great. Great. It sounds like all these conversations we're kind of weaving together. Excellent. Anybody want to add anything about that session? All right, then let's go on to Scott. How was catalyzing conflict transformation? Where is Scott? Well, I think Scott may have left us. Is there anybody else that could speak to that session that was part of it? Okay, well, we'll keep moving along. How about Tracy and Laura, the collaboration working with transition aligned organizations?
Yeah, we had a good kind of impromptu, totally unplanned conversation, and kind of ranged over different ways that the transition initiatives represented by those in the room were working with people and organizations, from kind of deliberate attempts to collaborate to more serendipitous things that happened as the result of particular projects that were piqued the interest of other folks. We also kind of talked about, we had some interesting play between different sizes of communities. So we had some folks from smaller communities and some folks where you couldn't really do anything without collaborating, and some folks from larger communities where there are so many things going on that it's hard to kind of get your head around it. So I think we had some good exchange of things that could be transferable across different places.
Cool, great, thank you. Let's go next to Sarah, media strategies.
Thanks, Don. Actually, I believe Leslie is going to report back for us. Thank you.
Oh, great.
So we had 5 big points that we have a group of people who would like to continue to work together and potentially become one of the national working groups working on communications. And as we believe that our work should include, and Marissa's gonna back us up on this, completing the communication strategy document so that we can help people at all levels of the organization with messaging, since people often find this really difficult.
with creating a communications toolkit that would be training and resources for local groups that would like to improve their communications. Because we really, I mean, everything that happens at the local level, and helping them to do it better is going to help the national also. A speakers bureau that could be at either the local or the national level. And we thought of something that offered training and support, kind of like Toastmasters, so that people could practice with each other and feel more comfortable. A media cooperative that would work at the national level for getting the transition message out at a higher level. So those were the 5 points.
Awesome. Yeah, those are some things we've been dreaming of for years now. Seems like
Yeah.
you might have something she wants to add.
Yeah, this also ties into the Regeneration Nation session, but thinking about the week of action in the fall of every year starting next year as a strategy to attract national media coverage through a coordinated, highly visible, beautiful, artistic, on the ground presence in communities across the country to kind of come out as a national force. That's how we're going to get their attention.
I agree. Yeah, we can probably, most of us remember those big 350.org days of action with, yeah, beautiful artworks going on all around the world. How much even more powerful would it be if we create something that meets people's needs? Right. So yeah, last not least, Jen, talking about climate resilience planning.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a really interesting conversation. It was cool having I think 7 other people join me in thinking out loud about our climate resilience plan for ourselves, and folks that showed up were also considering their communities, which I think is absolutely essential. So the 4 questions we asked, and I'll just kind of go through them in brief. What do you believe about about climate resilience for your life? And folks were thinking about their individual kind of family units or themselves, but also the communities they were in. And one person said that climate resilience is necessary, but realistically difficult to achieve on an individual basis. That's why they're engaged in the transition regenerative movement. And I think a lot of us echo that sentiment. And then we asked ourselves, what's the vision? What does life look like as someone who is living, themselves, their family, their community, climate resilient life? One that bounces back in the face of climate change issues. What are you doing? What does your work look like? How do you get your food, etc. So we shared some different pictures of that, what that looked like. And then our purpose, why do you want your vision of climate resilience to happen? Quality of life. We want to make sure that that other people have high quality of life. Equity is really important, making sure that we kind of raise everyone up at the same time. And we got to strategies, but then we didn't have enough time to quite gel that. So we shared emails with one another so that we can be in touch. And I know we have buddy networks as well. So, and I believe if we had an open space, we have a topic as well. So we can continue to kind of chat under the topic page. So I'm not sure if everyone knows how to access that, but I'll share my email address in case you're interested in being part of that conversation in the chat here, so you can reach me at a later time. And I'll share the kind of the notes from our chat also with the folks that I email out from the session.
All right, you're 2 steps ahead of me. That's the perfect segue. Just want to show folks where we have some these topics set up to continue the conversation. So here's the homepage of the Regenerative Communities portal. We go down here to spaces. and then open space sessions. And then once you're in here, you'll see topics pop up. And here there's been created a topic for each of the sessions that we hosted today, not one for the one that Tracy led, since that was proposed on the spot, but I'll create one right after this meeting ends. And you can go in there, and I encourage hosts to post the notes from your discussion here and invite others who are part of your group and use this for ongoing communications. And also want to offer, if there's groups that want to keep meeting together, you can let me know, and I'll put my email in the chat. It's just don@transitionus.org. And if you would like to use our Zoom account to have some follow-up meetings, happy to provide that kind of support. And then I think the last thing I wanted to mention was that besides that we're having regional organizing, bioregionalism and regional organizing session tomorrow at the same time, which I hope you all join us for. But as well as the content that we've discussed here, there's the process that we've used here for open space. And I hope you've seen how simple this can be, and that this could be a tool that you're able to use going forward. Of course, doing it online is a little bit different than doing in person. The best resource that I found for this is a free one that's online called The Brief User's Guide to Open Space Technology, posting in the chat right now, by Harrison Owen, the developer of Open Space. And it really lays it out in such a way that you can just read through that and use that as a guide. You don't really need to go through any extensive training process to do this. And if you're looking to dig even deeper, there's Harrison Owen's book, User's Guide to Open Space Technology. And it's a great format to use anytime you have a kind of overarching question that you want people to explore, like we did here with this question of regenerative action and what's next. And then people can just show up with whatever their interest is, propose sessions, and everybody else can attend and move between those sessions. So simple is sometimes the best. Very, very simple social technology, but very powerful at the same time. So we're about at the end of our time here together. I want to thank everybody who participated, everybody who stepped up to host a session, and do please join us for the bioregional and regional organizing tomorrow. And one last thing I will put into the chat is our feedback form. And particularly for this session, I'd love to get your feedback on how it works for you, any technical snags that you might have hit, so we can continue to improve in the future. So that's it. We can all unmute and say our goodbyes, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow.
Thank you, Don. Great job.
Thank you, Don.
Yes,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.
See you soon. See you tomorrow.